Hey everyone, back for another question from my students that I thought was a really great question because everybody knows that speaking in public can be terrifying. But the good news is that speaking in public is a skill that you can learn. I love this quote by Dr. Ellen Langer. She says, everybody doesn't know something, but everyone knows something else. Everybody can't do something, but everyone can do something else. Isn't that great? I mean, so some people might be great at public speaking, but my guess is they've done it for a very, very, very long time. And if you want to be good at this skill, you're going to be able to be good at it if you practice it. And I'm going to give you some practical advice on how to go about practicing. The question was, do you have any advice on trying not to be too nervous speaking in front of a crowd during transitions? And how can I practice that? So stage speech, I call these moments transitions because one, it does smooth the transition between the songs and it makes your show flow together very nicely. There are themes that I think every transition could look for, and maybe you don't utilize them all the time, but there are themes like, love and romance in songs. There are empowerment and self-confidence. There's freedom and liberation, loss and grief. You might be talking about these things and you might be able to transition in such a way that you're building a story with your speaking and your singing for the whole show. And you wind up leaving your audience with this great experience, this journey, this adventure that you took them on. So transitions can be very powerful, but I think one of the most important things to remember is that when you are on stage, when you talk, it is the moment that your fans, the potential fans that are out there, that they get to know you. They get to know a little something about you. And when you think about fan building and building an audience of loyal listeners who will be there for the rest of your life when you're creating music, I always ask the question, would you go buy music from people that you didn't know anything about? Well, you might, but would you be willing to follow and spend more money and travel to go on concerts and cruises and, go see somebody in a different state if you felt like you knew them and they understood, like you guys were the same, you shared some of the same things, you almost have this relationship with the singer, right? With the songwriter, because they're sharing some of these things and you're like, wow, that person said that in a way that I never could have said, but that is exactly how they feel. So there's an understanding, there's a belonging, and people need that. People need community. And so we seek out the people that we feel like understand us, and we find our place where we belong. And that's the moment, those are the moments on stage that you get to let the fans know who you are. And the people that will really, really resonate with who you are and your core values and what you're saying and what you're singing about, those are the people that are going to follow you for the rest of your life on stage. So I think they're very important. I think this is a very important skill to learn to do over the years. Now, my students always ask, why, because I come up with transitions in their classes on the spot all the time, and they think, well, how on earth do you do that? That was so good. But I started in the exact same place. Like I just was very young when my mom put me on stage as an MC and didn't give me a script. I had to do these things on my own and I had to figure it out. And it took me a very, very, very long time to learn to be comfortable on stage and to learn what was enough to share and what crossed a line that was too much. Like you want to be inviting and open and vulnerable, but I think there is a line at which, your private life is still yours. And everyone has to decide where that line is for themselves. But I think here's a bunch of things I think you can do to help yourself learn how to do this. And just realize that you're going to have to be uncomfortable. You're always uncomfortable learning new things, but if you're not uncomfortable, then you're not growing, right? If you're not putting yourselves in situations where you're uncomfortable, then you're not growing and you're not getting better. So, the uncomfortableness you can look at as a positive thing and going, okay, I'm figuring this out. Again, be curious about, well, like, what do I do to make this better and easier? So here's something to start with that I think you can do that will help. Start small. Start by speaking in really low pressure situations. You can practice in front of a few friends or families, small groups, and then you get, larger and larger group sizes as you go along. Keep your transitions short. You don't have to read a novel in between every song, right? Just keep it short. Make it personal to you. Make it meaningful and keep it short. Then I think this is probably the most helpful tool if you don't have someone there working with you directly in a lesson, working on these talking points, working on how you're talking, what you're doing, your body language, your paralanguage, is to record yourself. Again, get your phone out and put a video camera on you and record it. And be kind, please, when you watch this back. You're learning, but you look for the things that you do well, and then you look for the things, oh, I can improve on that. It's always funny when we try and get rid of the ums in our speaking, how many times you say and you don't notice because it's a habit. So you record yourself and you say, well, maybe I'll try and write this down. I always think it's a really great idea to actually script it out. Not that you want to memorize it, but you have a roadmap. And that way it's a little bit easier to get through the speech without stumbling. So record yourself. You can do it with video or with audio and listen to yourself back. If you're nervous, go back to the deep breathing exercises. Remember, deep breathing activates the parasympathetic, which is the sympathetic is the fight or flight, right? Nervous system. So that's and you have to have, some of that when you get on stage. You don't want to go on stage like a zombie, but you want to be calm enough so the deep breathing will help that parasympathetic nervous system come online for you and help calm you so that you're not overly nervous and anxious, right? Visualization is a great tool. If you follow any sports figures at all, many, many, many of them use visualization techniques. So before you're speaking, before you have to go up for the show, if this is the part of your performance that really terrifies you, spend some time practicing and really visualizing yourself and feeling yourself doing a great job. Right? Imagine that the audience is loving you and picture yourself feeling confident, feeling composed. So it's sort of a mental rehearsal, but I think it's very important that you practice that as well. Again, use your time in front of your audiences, like start gradual. Give yourself gradual exposure. Start small, build it up, right? And another thing I think that you can do that you don't realize you're actually practicing is have conversations with people that you don't know. Some people are really just good at this. They like to chat about everything. But if you're not one of those people, start by just talking to people that you don't know. And you'll discover that through practice, your speech becomes more normal. You're not stumbling as much, and it doesn't become as scary. The more you do it, the less anxiety I think eventually you'll have, or at least it will lessen. Some people say to make eye contact with people. I think that's good advice if making eye contact doesn't freak you out. So I'm going to give you something to practice, and this may be helpful and it may not be helpful. So you try it, You figure out if it is good for you or does it make you more nervous. It's 20-20-20 vision practice, sort of panoramic vision practice for every 20 minutes. So like especially if you're at your computer, or you're doing something. Every 20 minutes or so, if you're practicing in a rehearsal space or whatever, every 20 minutes, look up and out at least 20 feet and look to your peripheral vision. Look to see how much to the side, how much of the ceiling and the floor, and what is my depth perception? Like, can I look 20 feet away from me and hold that for 20 seconds? And then notice how you feel. Did that expanded view of your environment, did that actually make you feel like, okay, feeling a little bit better? Maybe it makes you nervous, and in that case, you have to understand and maybe do it for 5 seconds. See how that works. And then maybe you can go up to 10 seconds. Maybe 20 seconds is great. Finding that expansion in your vision and your body, it includes your environment, which is what you have to learn to do to be on stage. So give this a try. I would love to hear from you and see if you like this, see what comments you have about this, see if we can go further into this, because I think eyesight and what your vision, what you're looking at, is very important to what happens to your body and your nervous system. So, give me some comments. I would love to hear what you think about this exercise. A lot of people say, and I hear this all the time, embrace your imperfection. Well, I don't love the word imperfection, because if you know me at all, I really don't love the word perfection. I think those words are just packed with judgment. And I really hope that as we start to look at our language and start to look at how we're talking to ourselves, we start to realize that maybe we could have more compassion with ourselves too. I mean, it's so blatant, and we don't see it a lot. But when I ask, and when somebody asks you, would you talk to your best friend the way you talk to yourself? Generally, that answer is no. So I don't love the judgment that goes along with perfection and imperfection, because if you're not perfect, then you're bad, or you're wrong, or you're not good enough. You're imperfect. Something is less than. I don't think that's the case. I think you are just right where you are right now, and you're learning. And as long as this is something that you want to learn, and you're getting a little bit better at it each time you practice it, that's positive. How is that not a good thing? The only way that's not a good thing is if you're holding this standard of you should, and I'm quoting in air because that's another word that I really have trouble with. You should be able to do this thing in the future, but you should be able to do it now. And that's judgment that you're placing on yourself, shame, guilt, all of those things for not being able to do this thing the way you think you should be able to do it already. And I got news for you. Everyone at the beginning of their journey changes and evolves through their journey. If you believe that you will be the same singer that you are right now in 4 years, 10 years, 40 years, even 4 months from now, you're mistaken. You will grow and you will change. And if you can look back already on how much growth you've had, you'll see that. Like, take a look at yourself where you were as a singer and a performer 6 months ago. If you're working with somebody, if you're in classes, or just working with yourself, look where you were 6 months ago. There's some improvement. And if you can keep that in mind, then you can say, okay, this is just where I am right now. But I know I'm learning. I know I'm growing, and accept the nervousness as it's a natural part of being in front of people, speaking on stage especially, right? And you're going to make mistakes. And here's the big thing. Look, the audience really much more forgiving than you are believing they are. They know it's hard to be up there. They don't do it. They don't do it for a reason. They're afraid of being up there, a lot of them, and you are up there, right? So if you can just say, look, this is where I am right now. I'm going to get better. The flaws will eventually start decreasing. And even when you make them, it's not life ending. It's just a mistake. And if you can learn from it and be curious about it, what happened? What do I need to do so that if I don't like it, that doesn't happen in the future, right? If you're certain that you're going to be a terrible public speaker, then those judgments of yourself will be negative, and then you'll probably get all tense and lock yourself down, and you're going to become this giant stress ball on stage, and then nothing's going to work well. The speaking isn't going to work well. The singing isn't going to work well. And then that mean girl voice or that bully voice in your head is going to come back and say, see, I told you. But really, you can help that. You can by following these things and being nice to yourself and actually focusing on your success and not always just what you're doing wrong. Look, talking to your audience is taking a risk. You're being vulnerable. You're putting it out there. Maybe they won't understand you. Maybe they won't respond to you. I know in a lot of cases, especially young girls, it's uncomfortable when people are looking at you. People are objectifying you, right? This is the time when the positive reason that your voice is there is because it's just trying to protect you. It's trying to say, I want to put you in a little shell and protect you from feeling embarrassed or protect you from all of these things. But here's the thing. You're growing. You're not the same singer that you were 6 months ago, and you can handle more of the things that come with being on stage now than you could 6 months ago. So you have to say, thank you, mean girl voice. I appreciate what you're trying to do for me, but I'm going to keep practicing. I'm going to get better, and I can handle this, right? There's one more thing I really, really, really want to talk about, and that is, would you be willing to consider reframing your self-talk to include that every time something doesn't work, every time I've practiced this joke and it lands flat, the audience doesn't clap, sometimes they sit there and their arms are crossed and you think, oh, man, they hate this. Something doesn't go as planned, or worse, really, your speech, your transitions, your song, whatever, you just make some mistakes. Could you be willing to reframe I've failed into getting curious about what happened? Why was it that I got so nervous and got locked down, and what could I possibly do about it? Could this be a learning opportunity for me? I mean, here's the thing. I would love for you to really get in your DNA that you are an evolution of a singer, a performer. You are ever evolving. You are not a set thing. There will never be a set thing that you are, because we keep growing and changing. And again, I got news for you. Your body ages. So the thing that you were, the singer that you were at 20 or 30 is different as you become 40, as you become 50, as you become 60. It's always ever changing and evolving. So could you just maybe be willing to let yourself explore that and give the so-called failures a chance to become learning opportunities? And one more thing about reframing. Instead of being nervous, would you be willing, could you reframe that and think of it as excitement? Excitement to go out there and get to do this thing that you love to do. Even if it's kind of scary, you get to do it. You have an opportunity and a platform right now to build and to grow. As a person, as a singer, as an entertainer, you get to do this every day. A lot of people want to and never get the opportunity. Could you be excited to learn how to be a better you? Could you be excited about this evolution, your journey, your adventure? Is there any part of you that could redirect that nervousness into a little bit more positive and be kind and compassionate with yourself, because you are learning and we're always learning. And that's the cool thing. Like, wouldn't it be boring if you just knew everything and there was never any growth and there was never any new opportunities for you to explore and to grow and to learn and to become? I don't know. Those are just my thoughts on this, because public speaking, like I said, it can be terrifying, but it is definitely a skill you can learn. I hope some of these ideas help you out, and I'll see you on the next podcast.